Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and highest honors to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Baruch HaKodash. And if you are not in the know, Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, the one you call God's Son, in Paleo Ancient Hebrew. And Yahweh Shai is the one you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, in Paleo Ancient Hebrew. Double honors to the Apostle Elders, the Great Millstone. And salutations to you, brothers that preach, teach, and prophesy His words. We put our lives on the line to bring this truth to those of the elect. To you few brothers and sisters that may see this, Shalom. This is the brother Ariaga from the Grand Rapids, Michigan camp. And here in this article, it says, Dalton parents enraged over masturbation videos for first graders. All right. This is the school, Dalton. Now, I'm going to show you the video real quick. All right, because it says, last fall, parents at the posh $55,000 per year Dalton School got wind that first graders being taught sex education lessons that included masturbation. Why does the first graders, 5, 6-year-old, need to learn about masturbation? It's BS. So here goes the video.
Pass it, Squeaks! Whoa! Watch it! You almost hit me in the pee-pee! What's so funny, you two?
He said pee-pee.
Do you notice that when you say pee-pee, you giggle, but when you say penis, you say it in a serious voice?
I never noticed that before.
Some children and adults feel uncomfortable when they talk about their private parts, so they make up cute or funny names for them.
What's one for a girl's private parts?
Vajayjay! But what does Scoops mean when he says vajayjay?
He means vulva.
That's right, Kayla. It's important to use the proper words for our private parts.
Why?
Because our private parts are just as amazing as our hearts, lungs, brains, or any other of our amazing body parts.
But our hearts pump blood, our lungs breathe, and our brains think.
All our private parts do is pee. That's not entirely true, Scoops. It is true that a person pees or urinates through a hole called the urethra in the penis.
Does everyone have a urethra?
They do. It can be harder to see, but girls have a tiny hole in the front of the vulva where urine comes out from their urethra. Urination is actually very important. It helps us get rid of waste, stuff our body doesn't need.
Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes, when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
You have a clitoris there, Kayla, that probably feels good to touch the same way Keith's penis feels good when he touches it. But have you ever noticed that older kids and grown-ups don't touch their private parts in public?
They don't?
That's right, Keith. It's okay to touch yourself and see how different body parts feel, but it's best to only do it in private.
Well, if private parts are so special, why do you cover them up?
Because they are private, silly.
That's right, Kayla, because they are private.
Hey, Squeaks, pass it.
Wait! Okay, I'm ready!
That's why I advise you to tell your own children about these things. At the age 5 or 6, you're not going, like, the child's not getting an erection. Right. So, it's not something that a 5 or a 6-year-old is dealing with in their life at that time. Oh, I get an erect penis and I touch it and it feels good. No. Or I like to 5 or 6-year-old little girl. I like to lay in my bed or in the bathtub and play with it because it feels good. No, you don't. Look, That's not a natural urge that you have at that age, which is usually, excuse me, something that you develop in puberty or prepubescence. You start getting feelings down there, what have you. 5 or 6 in first grade, I don't know. Unless somebody may have been sexually abused, still, even then, you don't have any development down there to feel that way. Okay, boy doesn't have his testicles, and a girl's ovaries are not fully developed, so there's no sensation down there from that puberty, which puts you in the role of impregnation. At puberty, a male is able to impregnate a woman, which usually comes to around 12, 13, and a female is able to be impregnated. But this right here, first grade, that's not, your body is not developed to do that. Okay, so you get an understanding as to why these, and this is just a small slice of the stuff that she was teaching them. All right. It says, but after the post expose last week on the porn class, Dolton parents bombarded the school with more complaints about Fonte's curriculum. Sources told the Post. The Post viewed video of a cartoon um, Fonte used in one of her sex ed classes to 6-year-olds, showing the kids talking about touching themselves for pleasure, which was the video I just showed. Hey, how come sometimes my penis gets big sometimes and points in the air? Asked the little boy in the cartoon, leading to an explanation of what an erection is. I've had that talk with all my children, except for the youngest, which is 6, but all the rest of my children, yes, I've had that talk with them. It didn't come to my mind to necessarily have it about getting an erection and touching yourself for pleasure. No, man. No. The boy nods and says, sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good. Not at that age. Look at this crazy looking bitch. She looks like she's wild. She got some shit going on up there, man. Then the little girl character chimes in. Sometimes when I'm in my bath or when mom puts me in bed, I like to touch my vulva too. No. Fonte has reassured parents that she does not use the word masturbation. It doesn't matter. You're still implying it in class. And that her lessons teach kids not to touch themselves in public. Come on, man. That goes all the way back to those studies that they were doing on children from that NAMBLA organization, North American Boy Love Association. You know, where they I forgot the guy's name, Kessler, and they did the experiment on the children to see how many orgasms they could have in a so many hour period or something. Little children, man. And of course, the numbers they came up with were BS, because your body's not developed orgasm at 6 and 7 years old, man. That's just not even physically possible. It says they are also taught lessons about consent, while one mother consented that teaching the concept of consent can be valuable in protecting children from abuse. Another said telling kids that their own parents and grandparents should not touch them without first asking for permission is extreme. Yeah, that I'll be good goddamn I'm gonna hug my child, you know what I'm saying? Or embrace them or kiss them on their head or something. I gotta ask for their consent. What happens if you kiss them in their head while they sleep? They wake up. You didn't ask for my consent. That's BS, man. Literally, parents are supposed to say to their children, "May I hug you?" One parent said, "Hell no." One mother said that another parent told her, "I'm paying $50,000 on these um, assholes to tell my kid to let her grandmother hug her when she sees her, or not to let her grandmother hug her when she sees her." Fonte's lessons for first graders are also include subjects such as gender assignment at birth, gender identity, and gender expression. What this is they're grooming your day. They talk about men grooming young women. Oh, she's only 17, 18, and that man is 45 or 35. She's on 18, 19, and that man is, you see what I'm saying? But all throughout history, those have been normal things because the maturity level that a young woman reaches, they mature faster than a male. Now, these things are spied upon in this society as being bad, but the rest of the countries in the world, no. And I'm talking about outside of democracy. I'm talking about third world countries or countries where they're developed, yet their systems still remain primarily close to what they had in the past. You know, but here it's taboo. Hey, she's 18 years old. That man 35. Man, what the hell? No, that's common. But nonetheless, I digress. It says the gender identity and these things that they introduce into them is causing confusion in these children. It's polluting their heads. Kids have no less than 5 classes on gender identity. This is pure indoctrination. Adult mother said the person should absolutely not be teaching children. Ironically, she teaches kids about consent, and she has never gotten consent from parents about the sexuality, about the sexually explicit and age inappropriate material about transgender to first graders. And we go all the way back to the transgender story time that they're having at the libraries. And, the parents, a lot of parents in these situations don't even know what the hell is going on. And it goes against their core values and beliefs. Not to mention that it confuses the children. And in the end, that confusion leads to them expressing themselves inappropriately and it being condoned as normal when it's not. Alright? We are furious, a third dope mother told the Post. We were horrified to learn that this was shown to our first grade, 6 and 7-year-old kids without our knowledge or consent. But it's so hard to fight back because you'll get canceled and your child will suffer. And there you go, settling. You paying all that damn money just to sit back and settle when we're talking about your child in the end of the day. And so I'm grateful that, me and my children's mother do the homeschool thing, because, and stayed doing that way before the pandemic. Because who can teach your children better than you can if you have the time to? I understand those working families that are not able to, because that's the system they established for this very reason, so the state can raise your children and indoctrinate them. Yet when it all boils down to it, you know, These are the conversations that we have to make time to talk to our children about when it's time, when it's the right age, not public programming. Okay. The second thought, mother said, I'm not against all sex education, but it's not cool to keep parents in the dark about this or about it. The parents spoke on the condition of the anonymity because they are afraid of retaliation. The second mom hit back at Dalton administrators, um, who she said are playing mind games with parents and not fessing up to what's really going on in classrooms. The school has said that only a small group of parents complained about Fonte's class last fall, and that they, um, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, that they misinterpreted the content. At the same time, however, the school quietly removed the video about kids touching themselves from the curriculum. Yeah, okay. Because they're doing everything in secret. Only a small group of them complained because only a small group of them found out. All right, let's go down a little bit so we can get to these scriptures. It says Fonte works at the schools reportedly funded by um funded by a $450,000 grant given to Dalton in 2012 by hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackerman, Perishing Square Foundation. Ackerman's ex-wife Karen is on the Dalton board of trustees. What we're seeing across the country is that many schools have lost sight of the purpose of education and are hiding curriculum and teaching materials from parents. A spokesperson for FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerable Racism, told the Post, you know, and what they're trying to get these individuals to understand is that the things that are being taught, they are funded $450,000 just to do this thing, what they're doing now, right? And they continue to get those grants to confuse your children. Like, this is no small matter. I checked out their website. It doesn't have the largest amount of hits, but the fact that it's out there shows that they're grooming these children, man. Because pedophilia, believe it or not, is gaining traction in this society. And they're falling in queue perfectly as they slowly continue to convince and, you know, basically attach to the subconscious mind of individuals, and they gradually legalize these things. All right. Let's see. This is Deuteronomy 7:3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, because this is a law set up for those of you so-called natives, Latinos, and Negroes of the 12 tribes of Israel, and the scattered um, of our tribes at the four corners of the globe, who look like the respective nations that their ancestors are under captivity of. You know, this is why he established these things. Only you get involved heavy with these other nations, for they will turn away thy son from following me, and they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. So he knew that these other nations will start making us, we take on their customs and integrate amongst them, right? Then we would start taking on those customs, and he would be angry with us because it went against the law, statutes, and commandments that were given to us as a nation in the first place. Not given to all nations, but our nation. So-called native Latinos and Negroes. Okay? The true 12 tribes of Israel. Deuteronomy 7 and 5. But this shall ye deal with them. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. That's how the Lord had us deal with the other nations when we came into contact with them or conquered them. Because the Lord already knew, just like what's happening now. Our people go whoring after the nations, just like going back to Adam and Eve, and all the way up until this point, that we be deceived by these grand promises and that grandiose illusion. Deuteronomy 18 and 9. When thou art come into a land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations. Right? And those are the abominations that they're gradually teaching to your children behind your back. Not caring about your own so-called religious values and spiritual views. Okay? Let's see, Deuteronomy 32 and 27. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh hath not done all this. Right, and hey, believe it or not, they are our enemies. Though he who taketh into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword may be killed by the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. The saints being the true 12 tribes of Israel, right? Heavenly Father feared, the strangeness of the enemy, these other nations, right? And the things that they would do to us. How they would influence us or taking out their customs on us. The imprint that will leave on us. Okay? So he didn't want us getting involved with the customs of these other nations, because he gave us an image, law statutes and commandments to follow, which kept us separate from the other nations. Like the scriptures say, that was our wisdom amongst the nations. It's following these law, statutes, and commandments, rehearsing them in the eyes of the nations. Deuteronomy 32 and 32. For their vine is the vine of Sodom, and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Now, what you see right here is a vine. It says that vine is of Sodom. As of Sodom, a vine can also be interpreted as offspring. Okay? Because when you had a vine and what comes from the vine, you get grapes. You understand that, for the vine is of the vine of Sodom and of their fields of Gomorrah. The grapes are grapes of gall. The clusters are bitter. From the children being cohorts into this, debauchery and abomination, all the way up to the adult, is affected, man. Polluted, so to speak. And all they do is pollute other people with that same pollution. Psalms 82 and 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. It's like being in darkness. There's no light. So everybody's going around. Cat's going this way, cat's going that way. Some people doing lewd things in the dark because can't nobody else see them. It crashing and bumping into walls and fighting and killing. you know, there's no end to the wickedness that's been established by this kingdom. Being in the dark and you not being able to see the law, statutes, and commandments, the Lord, the Heavenly Father, that is the light to us. So we can see what's going on at all times. All right, but once you go outside of that, and, take on these customs of these other nations, that's when the problems start kicking in for us because that's not what the Lord ordained for us. All right, He said it was given to them to worship the moon and the stars. All right, and that goes for the other nations, not for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives. All right, and like I said, they're dispersed of our people that are around the whole entire globe. That look like their captors, their ancestors' captors that they went into captivity under, are fled too. You know, it's not based on skin color; it's based on the genealogy. That's all. And we tell that through the spirit because we know we can't trace everybody's drops and blood and what have you. The spirit is the windows to the soul, or the eyes are the windows to the soul. You know, and it'll tell all things through spiritual discernment. Carrying on. It said, a man shall be commanded according to his wisdom. Commended, Proverbs 12 and 8. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. And that shit was perverse. Perverse and perverted. You know? They don't have nothing to do with a 5 and 6 year old. Disgusting. Proverbs, excuse me. Proverbs 22 and 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So that half of that was taken in the context of, letting the government raise your children with this public full education system, excuse me. You know, and you got cats paying for their schooling, and they getting it just as bad. So it's a trip in itself just to see how this whole system is continuously crumbling and allowing all kind of debauchery in. Isaiah 5 and 20, woe to them that call evil good and good evil, and that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. All right, and they trying to make, we're just doing a kind thing, we're just showing them about the human body and the way you're going about it and the age and the time. It is incorrect, and y'all know that shit. But that's part of the grooming process that this system has to further normalize the pedophilia that's happening in with the higher ups behind closed doors. You know, this is the last of days. You better wake up. Isaiah 8 and 20. And the law and the testimony to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. You ain't got to be speaking word to word, but you can get what somebody is saying when they speak. Like, hey, man, I can relate to that. They can't relate to what this word is saying. It's a wrap. Whether you want to deal with it or not, it's going to be a wrap. Because we all have a choice to make at the end of the day. And that choice is will you choose light or dark, left or right, you know. Let's see, I just got a little bit more on here. Isaiah 19 and 14. Yahweh has mingled a perverse spirit in the middle thereof, or in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Egypt going back to present day America, which is, as Revelation calls it, spiritual Sodom in Egypt. Egypt just means captivity or representation, because the original word Egypt is an Egyptian word, and the name of it before that was Mizraim. Isaiah 30 and 2. That walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. People put their full trust into this kingdom often, and then they dash to pieces when they find out the reality of it. That it wasn't set up to work for them, but it's working against them. But you don't really see it until you're taking your last breath in this place. Isaiah 33. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame and the trust. It says, and the trust in the shadow, in the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion. In the shadow of this place, the shadow that this wicked place casts, you got a lot of our people that 2/3 to be exact, that trust in the system. And in the end is going to be their downfall. Because this system is building new avenues to bypass the laws that are established, and they're built to be against you. Because it's a hate crime for an Asian person to be discriminated against, to especially certain words, but a so-called Negro male or female, that's not a hate crime yet. It's still not. Okay. So, it's going down, and it's happening right before the eyes of the people. But the ones that are taking the toll of it in this case are the children. Daniel 12 and 10. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So if you have any kind of wisdom about you, you'll understand. The wicked are doing what they're supposed to do. All right? Zephaniah 3 and 5. The just Yahweh is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doeth he bring his judgments to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. And then you can tell there's no shame in that game. Look at they went about it. Alright? And that system is just built all around that type of debauchery. Sick. 2 Corinthians 2 and 11. Satan should get an advantage of us, but we are not ignorant of his devices. Right. And we are not ignorant of these devil's devices, man. Spiritual demon Satan is really working through these elites, these Edomites, and the system and the different governances they set in place. He's working through them, passing all these different bills and laws and ratifying different laws and vetoing and changing. Look, it's a mess, man. And this system is a direct reflection of that. All right. This is Ecclesiasticus 7 and 23. Has thou children, instruct them, and bow down their neck from their youth. It's your job to instruct them at the end of the day. If you don't have time, you better make time. Because that's what parents have to do. That's a sacrifice we have. 24th verse. As thou daughters, have a care to their body, and show not thyself cheerful to them. And it tells you after that to marry your daughters off early to a man of understanding. So when they go through that puberty, they would sell them off. So that would keep them from trespassing, because these erections and these playing with the vulva comes at that pubescent age. Alright? Because your body is equipped now, prepared to have children. Ecclesiasticus 22 and 9. If children live honestly and have wherewithal, they shall cover the baseness of their parents. And because, when it comes down to it, us being in such a low state, you know, we do the best we can for our children. And in doing so, your child is a direct reflection of your teachings and what you've installed into them. All right, because it said, praise not a man in his death until you see his children, you know, because that's going to tell the truth about how that individual was. You'll see it through their children. It says, but children being haughty through disdain and want of nurture do stain the nobility of their kindred. So at the same time, sometimes you just got wicked ass children out there that stain their nobility because they want some attention. Okay? So they will, so it goes either way. Even though they cover over our baseness, they also go about and may do some wicked things that may stain your nobility. All right? And Ecclesiasticus 32 and 22, and beware of thine own children. Know what's being placed into your children's head, what they're watching, what they're consuming, what they're being taught, because that can make the clear difference as if they're going, as if in which you will see, and whether they'll be able to, like you say, um, cover the baseness of their parents or be a stain the nobility of their kindred. All right. So watch what your children consume physically, mentally, and spiritually, and stay diligent. I pray you edify until the next time.